He was described as friendly and quiet. A neighborhood mechanic, a family man, someone you might wave to as he fixed cars in his driveway. But behind closed doors, Lonnie Franklin Jr. was hiding a terrifying secret, one that would take decades to unravel. Inside his modest Los Angeles home were hundreds of photos of women, some unconscious, others bound, many of them never seen again. His neighbors called him Chill. The media later called him something else, the Grim Sleeper. Franklin murdered vulnerable women in 1980s Los Angeles, then seemingly vanished into thin air for over a decade. But when he finally resurfaced, it became clear that he may have never stopped at all. This is the chilling story of the Grim Sleeper, a serial killer who operated for over 25 years, right under everyone's nose. Born on August 30th, 1952, in South Central Los Angeles, Lonnie Franklin Jr. grew up in a rough neighborhood. In 1974, at 21 years old, he joined the U.S. Army and was stationed in Stuttgart, Germany. But even there, he couldn't hide his violent tendencies. On April 17, 1974, Franklin and two other soldiers lured a 17-year-old girl into their car. They asked her for directions, then put a knife to her throat. They took her to a secluded area where all three men brutally raped her, one of them even taking photos of the attack. The girl, terrified but resourceful, pretended to be interested in Franklin. She asked for his number. He gave it to her. With police assistance, she lured him to a train station where he was arrested. Franklin was convicted of rape and kidnapping, but he served less than a year before being discharged from the Army in 1975. Back in Los Angeles, Franklin worked as a sanitation worker. He knew the city's alleys, landfills, and dead-end streets better than anyone, the same areas that would later become his personal dumping grounds. His victims were all vulnerable women, poor, black, often addicted to drugs or involved in sex work. Society had turned its back on them, and so had the system. His first known kill was 29-year-old Debra Jackson. On August 10, 1985, her body was found in an alleyway. She had been shot 3 times in the chest. Over the next 3 years, the bodies kept coming. 34-year-old Henrietta Wright, found under a discarded mattress. Barbara Ware, Bernita Sparks, Mary Lowe. Sparks was discovered inside a trash bin. By 1988, 6 women had been killed in the same fashion, shot with a .25 caliber handgun, often sexually assaulted. DNA evidence was recovered, but this was the 1980s. Forensic technology hadn't caught up. Then came a break in the case. In November 1988, 30-year-old Enietra Washington was approached by a man in an orange Ford Pinto. He offered her a ride. When she declined, he snapped. "That's what's wrong with you black women," he reportedly said. "People can't be nice to you." She got in the car. Almost immediately, he pulled a gun and shot her in the chest. He then raped her, took her photograph, and dumped her body, assuming she was dead. But Enietra survived, and her bravery would later be the key to identifying her attacker. Doctors removed the bullet. It matched the same weapon used in the earlier murders, but despite this crucial evidence, the LAPD chose to keep quiet. They didn't want the killer to know they were on his trail. They said nothing to the public, not even to the women who were being hunted. And then, silence. No new murders. No new victims linked to the .25 caliber handgun. The city began to forget. The media dubbed him the Grim Sleeper, a killer who, for some reason, had gone dormant for 14 years. But had he really stopped? In March 2002, the body of 15-year-old Princess Berthamew was found, strangled and beaten. In 2003, 35-year-old Valerie McCorvey turned up dead in similar fashion. And in 2007, the body of 25-year-old Genesia Peters was discovered, nude, inside a garbage bag. She had been shot with the same .25 caliber gun, just like the others. DNA from Peters' body matched the earlier cases, including the ones dating back to 1985. The grim sleeper was back, or perhaps he had never left. Under mounting pressure, the LAPD finally formed a special task force in 2007, but the public still didn't know the full extent of the threat. One reporter, Christine Pelisek of LA Weekly, broke the silence. Her 2008 article, titled "Grim Sleeper Returns," exposed the fact that at least 11 murders spanning 2 decades were linked, and that all the victims were poor black women from the same neighborhoods. She accused the police of indifference, and the community agreed. Then came a major breakthrough, but it wasn't from a crime scene. It was from a DNA match to a family member. Using a technique called familial DNA testing, investigators matched the genetic material found on the victims to Christopher Franklin, Lonnie Franklin's son. That led them to Lonnie himself. In 2010, police raided Franklin's home. Inside, they found horror. Over 1,000 photographs of women, some unconscious, some injured, many never identified. Dozens of women were shown in disturbing poses, some appearing lifeless. In his garage, in his drawers, even under his bed, evidence of decades of violence was hidden in plain sight. Lonnie Franklin Jr. was arrested in July 2010 and charged with 10 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder for Enietra, Washington. In 2010, after a lengthy trial, he was convicted on all counts. Jurors deliberated for just a day and a half. He was sentenced to death. On March 28, 2020, Lonnie Franklin Jr. was found dead in his jail cell. The cause of death? Never officially disclosed. With his passing, so too went the answers to many unanswered questions. How many women did he really kill? What happened during those sleeping years? And how many of those photos were of victims never reported missing? We may never know the full truth. What we do know is this: Lonnie Franklin Jr. preyed on the forgotten, on women that society overlooked. And for years, he got away with it. Not because he was smart, but because no one was looking.